Carl. Hi. Do we have, I'm not sure I know everybody um, here tonight. Is there anyone who's joining for the first time?
I'm joining with your meditation for the first time.
Great.
Yeah.
Hi. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm a
Welcome.
student of Lama Rinchen.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, for about 20 years.
Wow.
So,
Fantastic.
yeah.
So Lama father was in Parping, the village of Parping.
Oh, great.
So, welcome, Mark. So happy that you're joining us.
Thank you.
Yeah. Is there anyone else who's here? I think anyone else is here for the first time. All right. Well, welcome. This is Padmasambhava Meditation Center's Thursday night open meditation. And I'm happy to see all of you. Hi, Manisha. Hi, Aaron. Aaron, I think I missed you on Tuesday night. If you were there, I didn't see you.
Yeah, no, unfortunately, I had to work the last couple of weeks, so so I'm working a couple nights, but now, unfortunately, I'm finished for the rest of
Great. We're so happy to have you back. And Neil, what a delight to see you. Haven't seen you in a little while. And it looks like you've got either a light or sunlight streaming in through your window.
Should I change something?
No, you're absolutely fine, just how you are. No need at all. No need to change a single thing. And Janet, two Janets here with us. Welcome, welcome. Does anybody have, before we begin practicing tonight, does anybody have a question or a challenge with their meditation that they're working with and would like to bring to all of us for our tonight?
I have found more time for meditation than I've ever found in my life. And can you hear me? Am I on?
Yes, I can hear you, Neil.
Okay,
You're
good.
on. Yeah.
And I was wondering why I would need this environment to be able to enhance my meditation. That the physical things of our situation in the world now provides a certain space for me and maybe for others to activate this practice. Whereas for many of us whose lives may be a little bit complicated and busy, the space did not seem so available. And so I think it's sort of a blessing in a way that the slowing down of our pace of a lot of our lives now has opened up many doors for enhancement of this kind of practice for some of us. Others who are much more, I wouldn't say I use religious in the definition of people who just practice religiously daily and it just becomes automatic. For those of us who maybe not the environment of slowing down, of taking it a little bit less engaged. You do not have as many opportunities to spend time doing extraneous stuff in your life. This space opens up, and I have found that a very, very welcoming opportunity. So I don't know, sort of we like to think of our situations in the world as opportunities. This has been, despite the pain and suffering out there, an opportunity to enhance my practice. So that's sort of just been an interesting observation for me. Didn't take up too much time.
Neil, thank you for sharing that. I guess many of us might feel that way. And it's interesting in my experience in the work that I do, people who have not had an opportunity yet or necessarily been even drawn to an exploration of their inner world have certainly found it more challenging to be confined inside, literally to be confined inside, right, their home space, which then leaves less opportunities to be distracted externally. And so then the inner, the secret space, whatever's going on there in the mind, becomes magnified. It can be. And for sure, we're seeing that leads to different kinds of psychological challenges for different people. And it's also, as you said, an amazing time to deepen the practice of meditation that is forging a relationship with the secret and innermost secret worlds that we inhabit, right? So thank you for that reflection. I appreciate that. Anyone else have something that's coming up in their meditation that is on their mind, or just something that they've also they're noticing, given I know we've got a lot of experienced meditators in this group. Go ahead, Faith.
Christina,
Hi, good evening. Hi.
just to reflect on your teaching 2 weeks ago about the sound, that we did the practice of sound being all around us.
Yeah.
I found that was a really interesting way to kind of fine tune the aspect of just space. And it became a better word for that, turned out to be expanse. And just the sound, the dimension of the sound made it a little bit more of a clarity on the space and the mindfulness of the awareness of that and the luminosity of that, and thinking more of expanse. And just thank you for putting us through that little exercise to sort of deepen add that dimension to the dimension of the senses, and then also just help me to sort of tune that in. So I've been reflecting more on just what is the nature of the expanse on any given day, and particularly with the Vipassana meditation.
Wonderful. Thank you, Faith. Maybe we can do that again tonight. I had a couple things on my mind. One was to continue, in fact, with that, using sensory input as our meditation hook, our hook of mindfulness. And also was thinking about thoughts and how we deal with thoughts in meditation. How do you deal with thoughts when they arise in your meditation practice? Would anyone like to offer insight on that? First of all, does anyone have any thoughts when they meditate? At least I got some smiles on that one. Yeah. How do we deal with thoughts? How do thoughts start arising as friends? Manisha, were you going to say something?
I was. Is that okay?
Yes, it's
Are
very
you?
okay. It's great.
So I've noticed that, over the last 6 weeks, I've become more aware of my thoughts. So I'm able to kind of redirect myself and either listen to the music or the sound that's playing or focus on my breath and, practice the methods that you've taught us. Whereas in the beginning, I think I would just run with these thoughts. And then at the end of the practice session, it would sort of be like, well, how many things did I think about? So I think it was, yeah, of course there are thoughts, and I try to redirect myself. And, I'm hoping that the longer I do this, the more aware I will be sooner at catching myself doing it instead of actually thinking about whatever it is that comes into my mind.
Thank you. That's very powerful. I didn't have an opportunity in the 6 weeks introduction to meditation course that we just finished to talk about the 9 stages that are a traditional presentation of settling the mind. But you've just described, in fact, some of the first 3, I would say, which is kind of movement. First, there's so much movement in our minds, but we're not aware of it first. And so the first step really that allows that settling to happen is starting to become aware of the movement. And the beauty of that is that then we become even more aware of it off the cushion and not just the star of our own conceptual drama.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Although it's kind of fun to be the star sometimes, especially when there's applause but it's less fun to be the star when the inner critics start throwing tomatoes at you. So thank you for that reflection, Manisha. Let's practice with the theme of expanse as Faith so lovingly brought in tonight. Last session that I led, I introduced a technique for meditation I call 360 hearing. And so it's using our auditory consciousness as a way of expanding and settling into a vaster state of awareness. And I very much like using auditory consciousness. You can use others as well. Last time I explained one of the qualities of our sense of sound is that it isn't generally limited to only being able to hear what's in front of us. Now, we might hear sounds that come to us more easily, but in fact, we can hear sound from any direction. It's also the case with smell. But here, it's harder for me to light an incense and ask all of you to smell the incense as you practice. I do think that technology will come. Hi, I see someone named James. Welcome, James. I don't know if I know you. I'm Christina Monson, one of the meditation teachers here. Have we met before? Are you new joining us? I don't know if James can hear us. In any case, you're very welcome. You're muted.
You were muted there. I got it. I was trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Hi. Are you new? Are you joining us for the first time, James, or have we met
Yes.
before?
No, this is my first time.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Welcome.
it's
And it looks like you might be driving.
Yeah, I was actually headed downtown to the center, and then I seen on the website is closed, and then you guys are doing videos. I'm like, well, I guess I'll head back home and listen until I get home.
All right. Well, that's great. We're so happy. You can meditate with us as you're driving, but keep your eyes on the road.
Yep.
So let's do the practice again of using sound as a way of expanding our awareness. And so sitting in a comfortable position, again, wherever you are, just perhaps bring forward an intention for this practice. Whatever is there for you right now. If it's relaxation after a busy day, or a sense of wanting to connect more deeply to what's going on inside, whatever the case, just take a few minutes and sense what is the quality of the energy that you're bringing to this moment. And then take a couple deeper breaths from the bottom of your abdomen, just feeling your whole body settling into a more grounded place. And when we meditate, again, you can imagine that we have a support that's holding our spine straight so that our breathing is easy. Holding oneself upright to the best of our ability is important. And after grounding yourself that way, bring your attention to your hearing. Just becoming aware of all the different sounds. My voice as a sound coming through the computer. There may be other sounds in your home. Notice how you can hear sound from any direction. And let your attention focus on listening from all directions. You can imagine listening as far above you as possible. There could be wind movement in the highest reaches of the atmosphere. Could be planes up there. Aaron might have been in one of those planes last week. They're moving through space. Listen up. And imagine that hot, bubbling core of molten matter in the center of the earth, moving. Listen down. And you can bring your attention, just listen in front of you, making a mental circle all around you. To the right, back behind you. You can hear the cows, maybe, from a neighbor. All the way around to the left, way back out in front of you again. And as you do that, let your attention naturally expand out so that you become aware of this immense space above, below, in every direction, where there are sounds that you can hear. Notice how you can hear sounds from many different directions at the same time within the expanse of your awareness. And as you rest in this space, notice a thought. Think something. And now ask yourself, where did that thought come from? You just thought something. Where did it come from? Did it come right out of your head? Did it come out of the steering wheel? It was there for a moment. Where? Where was it? Is it still there somewhere? Is it floating around? Can you pick it up? Smell it? If it's gone, where did it go now? Where did that thought that I asked you to think, where did it go? And after you analyze that, until you feel a little bit weary, then just drop back, listening 360 degrees above and below. Just bring your attention right back, awareness in its expanse. And slowly return your attention back here. Thank you. That was a meditation practice that combines using our auditory consciousness, using hearing, to expand into awareness, and there to intersperse a practice of close mindfulness of thoughts. So examining, we call this practice examining thinking, to determine where it comes from, where it stays, and where it goes. James, I hope that we didn't distract you from driving. You're still there, so I feel good that there was no danger that happened.
Nope. Nope. I was just listening,
Great.
so I could take those techniques and try them later, as much as I could remember.
Yeah, well, we'll do another one too. We'll do another one before we finish today. A more
Yeah,
simple.
right on. I'm like
Yeah.
a mile away from my house, so that's cool.
Okay, good. So this is a practice that I would say I find very, very helpful for two reasons. But before I tell you, I'd like to hear from you. How was that? What came up for you as you did that?
Hi, Christina, it's Aaron.
Hi, Aaron.
So what I found is I didn't find myself chasing thoughts as much, and I don't know if it's because my brain was locked in on listening for the different sounds and kind of trying to analyze, especially when it was important to me to hear that, where did the thought go? As these last few weeks, I've been settling back into work after having the luxury of being home for many weeks. And so I find that more and more thoughts are popping up now. So that was helpful when you're focusing on those sounds around me to not chase the thoughts, in response to what you talked about earlier about, I tend to, every thought that comes to my mind, I chase it. I seem to be chasing them a much shorter distance nowadays. but I find as my life is becoming more and more crazy, settling back into work, that I find myself chasing them. So I guess I found it, I didn't have as many thoughts come up, and I certainly didn't chase them.
Thank you. Sometimes I think as we're meditating or deepening our practice, whatever the case may be, there's two general ways that we can deal with thoughts. And one is when we settle down and use a support for our attention, like the breath or an object, and we'll do that before we end today. What we do is we substitute one object of distraction for many objects of distraction that usually are taking our attention by thinking this, thinking that, and being scattered. Then we just give ourselves, okay, we're going to, lock our attention on our breath or on an object. And that allows some settling down of thinking. That's one approach. This approach that we just did right now is in some ways exactly the opposite of that. Is starting to connect to the vastness that is the background for all thought activity. And it's likened to that metaphor I've used before of, how do you tame a wild horse? By just giving it a huge field to run around in so that it eventually just plops down. So in fact, that huge field is there for us all the time. And what I find is that when we do the practice of 360 hearing, it's like you just find yourself in that field. You connect to this limitless vastness, expansive quality of your own awareness. The auditory consciousness I find is a wonderful, wonderful hook into that. And it's a hook that we can use anytime, any place. That's one other reason I love it. So walking down the street, a sound comes, hearing someone yells, a car horn, in nature, a bird, or whatever it is, you immediately return your attention to that huge open space that's always there, that you can hear sounds within. So connecting to that then also allows us to see thought activity within that perspective as well. Arising, they're there, they seem there a little bit, but then they're gone too. And the practice of analysis of thinking, where thoughts come from, where they go, where they abide as they're here, also brings us into glimpses of that vastness. That is an analytical practice. That is, I would say, an analytical kind of meditation that we do on our thoughts. And we can do it with any thought. Sometimes when you're in the midst of a thought, if you just suddenly can remember this practice, it takes you away from, that chase, or really the dance. You're kind of locked into some kind of, two-step process with the thought. And you just create a little gap between you and the thought. Where is that thought? I mean, I'm having it, but actually, where is it? just to ask yourself that question creates a little distance between you and the thought. And that little distance can make all the difference. And I would say this is an analytical practice that you can interweave into your regular meditation practice. If you start really analyzing thoughts, where do they come from? And really, quite literally, where do they come from? Is there some center that is just producing them? Do they have form to them? How is that made? See what happens. See where you end up. I would suggest doing that, getting a taste of it, but not, and then dropping it as you feel inclined to experiment with that practice, because to just use that form of analysis for a long period of time can be very exhausting. So the point is to do it a minute or two, and drop it as we begin. Other thoughts about analysis of thinking and expansion of awareness through hearing?
Hey, Christina, it's Carl.
Hi, Carl.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite aspects of this kind of meditation, that the little light bulb that went on for me, since these thoughts just arise through no particular will of my own, and the realization of that enables me to just not do anything about it. I mean, I don't know where they come from. I don't know where they go. I don't have to pay attention to them.
Thank you. That is, that's, I would say, just a beautifully simple way of articulating the key point. I don't have to do anything about it. That's right. Because we're usually minding our thinking, then oops. Am I unmuted now? Can you hear me? Okay. Yeah. Minding our thinking creates a lot of problems. That was great advice given to me by one of my first meditation teachers. Ignore your thoughts. Why do you have to own them? What would it be like if our thoughts just no longer bothered us? And I think that's one of the key points about meditation as well that's really important to keep in mind. Meditation isn't a way for us to stop thinking. The nature of mind is such that thoughts arise. The meditation allows us to develop a different kind of relationship with our thoughts. And it also certainly can help us become more aware of how many thoughts we have. And by training ourselves in focusing our attention, some of that wild thought activity can start to settle down. It does settle down. It does settle down. So I mentioned, and I just want to say one more point about that. What Carl just said, not needing to do anything about our thoughts, is, in fact, the key to having them settle down. Because on their own, they're going to go away and disappear. Now, sometimes when we have a lot of thoughts, it doesn't feel like that because one follows the other so quickly, and we don't have a sense of really a gap between them. But if we were to look into that and really analyze it, we can see that each one comes up, it's there for some period of time, and then it's gone. Even if we want to try and keep it, we usually can't. Now, you could obsess about something for quite a while, but not forever. Not forever. At very least, you have to go to sleep. James, I see that you're back home. I'm glad you arrived back home. What I would like to invite us to do now is to do together a simple meditation practice. I would say this comes from the tradition of Zen Buddhism. We call it just sitting, shikantaza, just sitting. And the instructions that I'll give link with what we just did in terms of getting a felt sense of spaciousness. You're sitting, your body's existing in space. Our planet is floating in space. And so thoughts are also arising and dissolving in that same space. And so this is a practice whereby we just settle into that space. We sense it all around us. We sense it as the field in which thought activity happens. And we don't mind that thought activity. And the way that we don't mind it is we allow our attention to lightly focus on our exhalation. Traveling out with our exhalation as it does. And we're sitting in a comfortable position. We're keeping our spine as upright as we can. Our hands can just be resting on our knees. We're focusing our attention on the exhalation with a light touch to that. And we're not inviting any thoughts to come. We're not running after the thoughts that have already come and gone. And thoughts that arise in the present are left to themselves as we may notice them, but then return our attention to our exhalation. So that's the focus of attention. And we might keep the gaze slightly down, which is helpful for settling. And we start to feel comfortable in that natural rhythm of breathing. Bringing our attention there. And so just sitting. We don't welcome any thoughts that have yet to come. We don't worry about any thought that's already gone. We don't mind any thought that arises here and now. We just bring our attention again and again right back to our exhalation, traveling out and dissolving within. And then lift your posture just a little bit and raise your gaze. And we'll conclude by just listening. Listen 360 degrees all at once, above, to the swirling of the planets around, into the center of the earth in every single direction, infinitely, as far as space extends. Listen. Thoughts are rising and ceasing in this great expanse. And we don't need to mind them. We can just keep listening. Thank you. James, that's a little presentation at the beginning of one of our most fundamental practices of sitting meditation, whereby we use our breath as a support for our attention. And we do that by focusing on our exhalation and just traveling out with it and dissolving as it does. I don't know if you're new to the practice of meditation.
Yeah, sort of. I mean,
Sort of? Yeah.
I went to one session before the outbreak happened, and it wasn't like it was just like I don't know, a public thing in a shop, you know, just because I was curious. And I knew that it's important for what I'm trying to do. Well, I guess I don't know how to word that, but I guess that's important for opening up, you know, my mind and stuff more than it already is. I'm just bad at it. I didn't know where to begin, so turned me on to Buddhist temples. Was video I had seen earlier, and a lot of what they talked about, what they said, some of their practices and beliefs were already aligned with mine, especially karma and dharma. So I figured that that's probably where the basis of I guess what I feel is, I don't know how to explain it. Anyway, karma and dharma, I guess, are based off of Buddhism and stuff. So that's how I ended up here. So.
Do you have any specific questions about meditation or the practice that we just did?
I mean, not right now. I'm sure more later in more sessions, I probably will have lots of questions because I'm very inquisitive.
Great.
Right now, I'm just kind of like starting to figure it out, I guess. I know that a lot of people say that it's real hard at the beginning to not chase thoughts. So, and that's one thing I keep hearing.
Yeah. Thank you so much, James, for joining us tonight and for sharing what you just said. One of the things that I invite you to consider is that the evaluating of our meditation practice is something we all do. This was a good session. This was not a good session. I can do this. I can't do this. I'm terrible at doing this. Oh wow, now I'm getting it now. I'm really getting it. All of that is also just different thoughts. And I believe that all of us who are making an effort to meditate are doing it right because we're doing it. I think the biggest mistake we can make if we're interested in doing this is not to do it. And sometimes when we start to practice, lots of thoughts feel like they're coming up. And sometimes I remember thinking myself, I'm having so much more thinking than before I started meditating. What's going on? But often what's happening is we're becoming aware of our thinking, whereas before we weren't so much aware of it. And that's a great sign. It's a sign of just the practice as it is, naturally. So recognizing all the thoughts, all the judgments that we have, not even just about our practice, but about ourselves, right? As just being equal in the sense of all just different kinds of thoughts. Some of our thoughts are positive thoughts, some of our thoughts are negative thoughts, but they're all just thoughts. And so this is a way that we can also start to develop a bit more equanimity about our thoughts. So a different kind of relationship where we let them be. They come and go naturally. And that's why as we start to have that kind of focal point, and the breath is the one that I like the best because it's so dynamic and natural, and each one of us has it as we're living. So we use that as the focus from our attention, the place where we just come back to again and again, to that exhalation, traveling out with it, dissolving, and then we naturally breathe in. We don't have to tell ourselves, now it's time to breathe in. It just happens naturally. Thoughts can arise, they will arise. We notice that. We notice our thinking if it has gotten into a dance, a tango, maybe foxtrot, maybe some really crazy rap. There's all kinds of dancing with thoughts. As many kinds of dancing as there are, there's that many ways to engage with our thinking. Anyway, we just bring ourselves back. And that's it. That's all we have to do. When we start off, we also talk about the benefit of short sessions, but every day. And that way we build up a practice. 5 minutes, 10 minutes like this. But 5 or 10 minutes every day is better than, say, trying to force ourselves to do something like 30 minutes on the weekend. I'm guessing other people here can speak to that. Is there anyone else here who has been developing and deepening their meditation practice recently who might also offer some helpful tips on that?
Christine?
Yeah, Carol.
One of the things that in this time that's really improved for me is also meditating off the cushion, so that for some reason, being in a more quiet environment, I'm able to keep my awareness. My awareness is much more heightened as I go through the day, not only when I'm sitting, but when I'm walking around. So that's that's part of it too. Sometimes if you're too restless to sit, or I sometimes I just cannot sit, like I've got just too jittery. But if I walk and try to maintain my awareness, it becomes easier. So I think in this time when some of us have, are more isolated, just being able to hold that attention as we go through our day is also really beneficial.
Mm,
I'm
thank
finding it
you.
really special, much more able to maintain my awareness now, even when I
Mm,
can't sit.
mhm. Thank you. Yeah, certainly. I think the um, the practice of being able to be present fully here and now, that we train ourselves to develop through formal sessions of meditation, definitely is integrated into our daily life. And so to even just take a walk where we're intentional about being fully present and just mindful as we walk is also a certain kind of meditation. We've done that as well at the center. So thank you, yes, for sharing that. I'll just say that we, and many of you here know you had joined us, we just finished a 6-week introduction to meditation course, and we do Thursday night open meditation just like this every week. Welcome to all. And we're going to start another 6-week introduction to Buddhism. I would say introduction to Buddhism for seasoned Buddhists. Introduction to Buddhism for everybody course in about 3 weeks. So we welcome you to join us for that. It'll also meet just once a week. And as part of it, we will maintain a meditation practice throughout and look at some of the fundamental karma and dharma, James, as you said, teachings that are the foundations of the Buddhist tradition and more. So would anybody like to share something before we conclude tonight? Any other questions or reflections, insights?
Well, I think in this particular time of challenge for the whole planet, that the awareness of this outlet for some of our tension, for some of our concerns and fears and hopes for the future and for ourselves and for our family is a wonderful outlet for so many of us. Many of us, as was mentioned, I think by Carol, many of us take walks. We go on a bike ride. We're out and about in a different type of environment that is sort of away from our work, from our ways of making a living. Those of us who are retired and those of us who are struggling with their unemployment, this offers a refuge in a way to hold on to something very, very important. And we're sort of holding on to ourselves and our basic nature when we are able to connect with this practice. So we always thank you, Kristen, for guiding us and helping us through this time. Appreciate that.
Thank you so much for that, Neil. Yeah, beautifully said. That's what it is. It's a coming home to ourselves and a connection to our basic nature. That's exactly what the practice of meditation is about. And in some ways, alongside with the intensity of the suffering experienced by so many right now, is this opportunity to make that kind of connection. Yes. And it's not a either or, i.e. either we're suffering or we're connected to our basic nature. These two things go hand in hand. And the more we connect to our basic nature, the more compassionate we find ourselves to our own and other people's suffering. And that's part of the power of this path, a path of deepening our own self-awareness. Thank you. The sounds of Nepal in the morning. Yes, they're my background sounds. Maybe your background sounds too. The cow next door, the music from the temple, the Brahmin families living around me blowing their horns as they do their morning pujas. Yes, the sounds of Nepal. Anyone else like to reflect this evening? I encourage you to practice 360 awareness / listening, hearing. As you go around your days off the cushion, just stop wherever you are at some point in your day and just listen every direction, up, down, and connect the expanse that's always there. Thank you, everybody that joined tonight. As I said, we're live weekly Thursday nights, 7 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, alternating Brendan Kennedy next week, and I'll be teaching the week after.
Thank
So
you.
thank you, everybody. Wishing you all
Thank you,
good
Christina.
health, good sleep, well-being, and look forward to meeting again.
Thank you. Thank you, Christina.
See you, Manisha. Good night, everybody.
Great to be
Thank
with
you.
Bye.
Thank you so much for your teaching. We'll see you next week, James.
Yep, see you in a week.
See you in a week, James. Okay. Bye.
Bye.